know if you just happen to fly a plane over there and throw stuff out. Just do it.
Do you have any applications to be
For 11 a.m., let's call this personnel committee to order. Can we have roll call, Melissa, please?
Fred Noble,
Here.
Jana Barnett, Rick Weinhofer said he was going to be coming, Ron Stanko, and Bill James.
Here?
Okay, public comment?
Yes, Adrian Jitty, 48 Cardinal Road. Good morning. I'd like to address a serious concern regarding the behavior of certain borough employees, particularly in relation to recent incidents on a hearing board meeting where the main entrance door was locked while the meeting was still in session.
No.
The incident involved Melissa Miller, who despite being warned that the door should remain open during public meetings, chose to ignore the instruction. Melissa is not just any employee. She's the Borough Open Records Officer, a position that requires a thorough understanding of legal obligations regarding public access. Her decision to lock the door, effectively excluding participants, raises significant concerns about her judgment and Borough's commitment to transparency. Additionally, I would like to ask the Borough Solicitor or Attorney who is present today to weigh in on whether this incident constitutes a violation of the Sunshine Act. The Act clearly states that public meetings must be open and accessible, and I believe this situation may have breached those requirements. A legal opinion on this matter is crucial to ensure that we are upholding both the letter and the spirit of the law. Furthermore, this incident is not isolated, but part of a broader pattern of dismissive and belittling behavior towards immigrant residents, which is deeply troubling. We just saw yesterday one example of that. This type of conduct contributes to a hostile environment and seems to be supported either directly or indirectly by elected officials. I urge this committee to take these issues seriously as part of the performance evaluation review, which I support that we need one in this borough. It is essential that we address not only the professional capabilities of our staff, but also their attitudes and treatment of all residents, regardless of their background. Continued discrimination and exclusion have no place in our borough, and it is imperative that we create a culture of respect and fairness. Thank you for considering these points in your discussion today, and I look forward to hearing from the Borough Solicitor perspective on the Sunshine Act issue.
Thank you. Any other? Okay, for Recreation Director, full-time. I know we discussed this briefly before, we deferred it. For some reason I can't.
I don't think we did discuss this before.
Okay.
You were all given a copy of a draft job description to take the current just rec director position to a full-time position, which would cover recreation as well as marketing. So this person would be responsible, obviously, for all the things.
Sorry.
Obviously, for all the things that the recreation director is currently doing, in addition to assisting with marketing, not just for the rec department, but for all departments. This individual would also be responsible for all aspects of maintaining and updating the website, other than agendas, minutes will be continue to be handled by Melissa, just because of her being the borough secretary, knowing the guidelines for when those things have to be posted and things like that. Did anybody have any questions on the job description?
When would you want this to become effective?
2025, because it's not budgeted. So part of, the next piece of this discussion would be Phyllis has already been notified to include it as a full-time position for 2025 in the draft budget. The anticipated starting salary would be $75,000, which is actually in line with the current hourly rate that the rec director is being paid. If you converted that into a salaried position with an expectation of 40 hours a week, the dollar amount is ironically exactly the same, which was not intentional. The other piece to this is we currently have a part-time recreation assistant. That position would no longer be necessary. And looking at current year-to-date pay to that employee, which again, that's a part-time position as well, in 2023 pay, that averages between $18,000 to $21,000 a year.
So will those assistant rec positions fall to this new position?
Yes,
Is the current rec director interested in such a?
yes.
So I have a question.
You've certainly done, I'm sorry, Brian, go ahead.
Did you want to ask a question?
No, I just wanted to comment saying he's certainly done it, yeoman service since he's been here.
I have a question. If the rec director's job is anticipated to be full-time, and the marketing director is the same person,
Yes.
so, is there an anticipation that his responsibilities would grow, which would be something that would be outside the purview of the council, and that you find him doing more stuff because he has his job and he's making more money and does more things that are fun, but not necessarily at this point what we standardly do within the borough. Like, his job is his job, and we don't need to build his job into more because we're happy with what he does. And the escape hatch is, he starts doing other stuff, like things that we're constantly talking about now, like putting signs on the island and advertising countywide that Dracula's coming to Happy Hollow tonight, come watch the movie. I mean, things that are outside the scope of what we do here, while, and I know this is an issue that I seem to be one of, we have a lot of recreation activities in the borough that we don't pay one dime for, that all of our citizens have to pay to do those recreation things, while our rec director is busy asking other people to come on in. We don't even charge them, so somewhere we're losing our minds here with hiring people to do more stuff, which costs us more police coverage and everything else that goes on. And our people that live in the borough are left with having to pay for, couldn't give them starting blocks at the pool, which is like, give me a break, but we can hire a rec director that can do more stuff. Why don't we just let the people that are doing stuff here be happy?
They're not talking about expanding the rec director per se responsibilities. They're talking about adding responsibilities on marketing, and sort of think more general, not like recreation focus.
Correct, I mean, I've
He's
talked
already doing the job.
Yes, but they're talking about giving him additional responsibilities so that the communications from the borough, I think, are more effective and are done on behalf of more departments. They're not changing the core recreation duties.
So something has to change. If you're paying more money, he's gotta be doing more than he's doing.
Right.
now.
Other than
We're
him
dropping
taking-
a position.
Other than him taking on the assistant who does my rec.
But I'm not sure dropping the position is a good idea, because I think the parade is probably one situation where
But
you
that's,
need more than one person.
They're
You
talking
can't
about-
do this by yourself.
what she does is primarily process payments and things through my rec.
she's remote, she's not on site
She
ever.
doesn't do that kind of stuff that you think she does.
No, I don't care what they do, but if Randy is now going to be the rec director and the marketing person,
Yeah.
and if we let that, is that person that's being let go, the person that did all this stuff on my watch or whatever it is?
On rec.
Okay,
Not all of it, no, she does a small piece of it.
all right, so Randy doesn't,
She's more, less.
so her existence has nothing to do with Randy getting a promotion to rec director and marketing director.
That's not quite true, because they're eliminating her position and freeing up 18 to 20,000, I think is what, which is in part paying for that, and have more time for him, make it a full-time job, and with these marketing responsibilities, that also becomes a full-time job.
Well, who's doing it now?
Marketing?
Yeah,
I don't think we do much marketing.
well, we sure do a hell of a lot of it if we're not doing it.
The rec director markets all of
Randy
the rec
does it.
programs.
He markets the rec
Rec.
stuff,
Mhm.
we're not talking
Rec.
about other stuff.
Does Randy have actual
Talking
background in
borough-wide.
marketing?
Yes, like,
Okay.
he worked for And One, like the basketball company.
Okay, I love his motivation and I love his effort, but I just wanna personally put out there that the posters that he puts out, as lovely as they are up close, when I sit at the traffic light, I can't read anything on the poster. There's too much information for these billboard style posters in the drive-by locations that they're being put, is my personal.
I tend to agree.
Like you can't, when I sit there at the traffic light at red, I can barely make out Movie in the Park. I can't read what day of the week it is, I can't read anything. He makes great posters, but they're meant to be postcards or flyers, they're not good street signs. So I think that is the only huge downfall I see in his marketing skills.
Is he making these?
Nobody writes
Outside
rebels
of
as a
the
librarian.
A sign company.
Yeah, he does do that.
Actually produces them.
But to get back on the topic though, so he's also gonna be doing the borough website?
Yes, other than the agenda and minutes section.
Right, but just the general information that's put out for the public,
Yes,
which is important. And, you know, it's no secret that Melissa is overwhelmed. That's great, you know,
Yeah, if he can
I
keep
think-
that updated regularly with information.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe with his Facebook page if they wanted help, or
I'm sorry, I
will
missed.
he be able to help the police department with its Facebook page if they wanted help?
Yes, and same with the fire department, same with any
I'd
department.
love him to create a Facebook page that's just borough, like Wyomissing Borough, not the Park and Recs, so that other information can go out.
so that
Meaning
would
Facebook?
fall under the
Yeah,
purview
Facebook,
of
what
him
I
being
say.
the director of
Other social
marketing
media.
or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
social media.
We're almost circling back to Pete's job, which was a part-time job. And then Pete was asked to, hey, could you do this, and could you do that? And by the time he got to the part where he was doing 8 other things, which he was asked to do, but he was only supposed to do the rec job, he was overwhelmed. So we're sitting here now thinking that, well, Randy can help the chief do the chief's barbecue or something, and so you can do this and you can do that. Suddenly the guy is overwhelmed, and the next thing you know, we're having to pay this guy more money because we just gave more things to do when we're happy now doing what he's doing. If we blow this thing up, we're outsourcing these posters, Randy's not doing this.
No,
He's designing them.
designing them.
Yeah, but
He's
somebody's
having somebody
paying for it.
print them.
Okay,
But we're
Yes.
paying for
that is such a
What's
small
that gonna-
job,
It's not.
Totally confused here.
Okay, so he's not perfect,
Well,
okay.
I just say it's
Prior to Pete Beck, the rec position was full-time.
part-time.
No, it's
It was
full-time.
full-time.
It was
From
full-time for a long
2016
time.
until 2022, it was
Park and Rec.
full-time.
Yes, it was full-time up
Right,
until
right,
Pete Beck
right.
joined in 2022.
And
There you go.
Peck did,
So it's
Pete
been-
did not have, no.
It's been full-time except for the last 2 years.
Well, we just gave him more work to do. If it wasn't rec responsibilities, it was something, because he couldn't do all the work that he was originally hired to do.
I
Well,
think
there
he
are
had
there are
another
a lot of
job.
reasons why somebody can't, okay? Can't go on. Pete's irrelevant.
He's not irrelevant, but that's okay.
He's irrelevant.
He's an
to the
example
discussion.
of where we had a rec director, he left, and now we have Randy, and he's doing a good job as rec director, and now we're expanding into an amorphous thing called marketing, and we've now expanded it to the police department, and to this website, and that website. One guy can only do so much,
Well,
and we're not doing anything for the people in the borough that could use some help recreation wise, like the other 20,000, maybe we'll give a grant to the swim team, or to the soccer team, or the basketball team, or the football team.
Ron, we get your point, but what I'm saying is, you're comparing apples with oranges. You had Pete Beck, who also.
Forget about Pete Beck.
Well, no, you brought him up, who
Well,
also had a full-time job,
I know he
okay?
did, that's
And
exactly
he
why he
couldn't
left.
handle either one.
I understand that, that's exactly the point.
So now we have one person here, okay, who says, I can do this, and who's qualified to do it. So let's bring that one person on full-time to complete these tasks within the guidelines of his, contract.
It's not a
Or
forever
his-
decision, we maybe we're gonna evaluate him and see how he's doing it.
I agree with you.
Yeah, we're not committed.
I would just like to see the scope of his job description as it changes. Well, we just saw it, okay?
It was sent out in the packet a week ago.
All right,
You
sorry,
just
I
saw
didn't
it.
read it then.
I have two
Well-
questions. Can I ask two questions? The first one would be, what was the budget for his pay throughout the year, and how much have we gone over it? And what was his, and what was his spending capabilities, and how much has he exceeded that?
So budgeted approximately 45,000 for his total 2024 salary with this
45, you said?
this pay period that ended on Saturday, we are at that number.
So we're at that number and we still have 3+ months.
4 months to go, though I would argue that rec season, so to speak, is tapering off. And your second question was regarding the rec budget.
What's the budget and how did he utilize that? Did he
He's
utilize it?
very mindful of staying within the budget. There was miscommunication to him specific to the playground budget, that it was not told to him. That's a line that's shared by him and the Parks Department. So he assumed the 30,000 that was in there, because nobody told him otherwise, was all his. Even with that, that line item is only over budget, I believe, $3,000 or $4,000. It wasn't
Through the end of the year though? Or is it
no, with
over
expenses,
that?
like by the end of the year, it should be over $3,000 to $4,000 total with all expenses they know are coming into that category.
Okay. I just feel like the playground program, which is fabulous, was made incredibly fabulous with a lot of money. You know, $1,000 for snow, hundreds of dollars for this and that. Like there was a lot of pricey items for a very small fee to the parents. Don't get me wrong, I had a kid in the playground, I love the playground program, but I just feel like he's doing a whole lot with not enough money. He's spending too much money. He should be reeling some of that in. I worry about his spending.
Calling past individuals out specifically, I can tell you that the money is actually much better guarded this year than it was for the past 2 years.
Okay. I just wanna make sure playground budgets or costs go up too.
They're looking right now, I think we're gonna discuss at tonight's meeting, the potential fee schedule and any increases, cause it's still a tremendous bargain.
It's still incredibly cheap.
As a full-time, would he be exempt from, just gets full-time, like no overtime, no.
Correct.
What was the word you used for marketing director?
Your social media.
Social media.
That's in his.
Borough social media.
Yes.
Okay, look,
I'll make that motion that we,
make it a full-time.
full-time position.
Second.
Can you clarify for 2025, please,
For-
for motion
yeah,
purposes?
effective 2025,
So
January 1, 2025.
Second.
Second, any further discussion?
So I have just general concerns about adding additional responsibilities into the role. My concern would be losing focus of some of the rec stuff versus the marketing stuff. I think that it can very easily skew away. I mean, we've had some conversations this year about the amount of time and be mindful of overtime and just general availability through some of the other staff back up through the rec director. So my concern is that if we start putting too much more in there, we lose focus of the rec side of things or the marketing, as that's where he has a lot of expertise. So I'm not sure what we can do to make sure that, again, are we giving these two titles equal footing through the position, or are we still leaning towards rec with marketing capabilities? Is it recreation and marketing director, or is it recreation director and marketing director? How do we anticipate that split of time over the course of the year?
I can tell you in my conversations with Randy when discussing turning it into a full-time position with this component and tailoring the job description, you know, taking his original job description from when it was part-time and I added very little actually to add the marketing component. And my takeaway from my conversation with Randy is it would be like a 70-30 split, so 70 rec, 30 marketing. I mean, other than updating the website, we don't do a ton of press releases or marketing for other departments unless there's a need, and that's not to say we can't start doing more, but I know one of Randy's biggest challenges this year was the first year of every program, and him truly wanting to understand the background, know what the expectation was, and, you know, I had to have a conversation with him more than once. First year, get it done, get it under your belt, talk about adding and expanding for next year. So, I mean, he's very gung-ho, he wants to go above and beyond and really turn out a good event for the public, which I very much appreciate, but walk before you run.
But I guess my big concern is rolling in the part-time position and rolling in the marketing director position just feels like a lot of additional responsibilities for that singular role in 1 year. To your point, if we need to control how much additional we're going to do, this seems like all of a sudden wrapping 3 positions into 1 position going forward. So again, that's one of my big concerns.
How many hours a week was the MyRec person, that $18,000 to $20,000?
She's averaging 20, but we actually started making her do an Excel spreadsheet tracking hours and what specifically was being worked on, because looking at prior years from, outside of April to the end of July maybe,
Yeah.
it should be
Nice
3 to
to
5
know.
hours a week,
Yeah.
if even. So,
Well, I think Rick, I must speak in Greek, but Rick basically outlined the same thing I said. He's got 2 jobs and another job which is yet to be completely fleshed out. It becomes a sexy, cool job, marketing director, and all the other opportunities. There's lots of things you can do at the playground that don't require snow in July that kids could do to have fun, which is his sole job. Does he have assistants that are paid?
for the playground program, yes. Yeah.
So can he push out other programs while he's doing the marketing so that what the kids are expecting is happening, as opposed to Frank Sinatra coming in and all the other people that are coming in for things to do that aren't related to the rec department, they're related to some desire to make everybody happy by doing things that are extraneous to the rec department specifically.
Well, those things have been in place for years. I mean, we've been doing music in the park for years, and
That's
we've been
okay.
doing movies in the park for a few years now too.
I know, but now Randy has stepped it up. He's got signage everywhere. He's putting it in the newspaper. That's the marketing. So if we go down that road, it's a cool job, marketing director, and so is the rec director. I can tell you, I was in the playground world and I had a full-time job. I was just a playground leader. So he's got the playground and he's got the pool. He's got all that stuff to do, which is a big job. Marketing director, staff, is either a big job or we're telling him it's gonna be a cool big job, but we don't want you to do too much because you got a big job as rec director.
You could incorporate the 70-30 concept directly into the job description. That would give a parameter that you could then measure. And, it could be worded that it is generally over the course of the year, so that, there are gonna be days when it's not gonna be 70-30, obviously. But, would that give the committee some comfort to see that 70-30 concept
I think
in the
that
job
would,
description?
that would satisfy what I was looking for, making sure we keep that weighted towards the rec director side of things, having the job description.
I go on that.
Or would you want 70-30, or just want to say?
Focus on rec.
The majority of the time would be spent.
I think we.
Yeah, his primary responsibility would be, involving the rec department.
He's not
If
a
he keeps
time
track,
sheet.
keep track of his time, we can figure it out. We can't enter into some ambiguous, most of my time.
What are you gonna do if he's 31%?
Well, that's okay, we can handle that.
Well, that's
But we
why
can't-
that's what she's saying. It's kind of,
Can we just say approximate?
just say primarily focused is the way to say it.
Yes, that's it.
The majority.
And then we'll analyze it. If
Yes.
it's not working, it's not working.
I would be open to that verbiage as well.
I can add that for the council packet.
But Michelle, also in the heading of the document, it just says rec director. That's probably something we missed.
There's a motion, a second, and a motion to the motion is amended to say primarily rec director. Is
Yes.
that okay? Amended motion, I can't remember. Who's
Yes,
second.
fine.
Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Labor Council, before the agenda was modified, we were gonna speak with him at 11:15. Now there's another item that was added, and I told him, because of his schedule, no later than 11:30. So if we're not gonna get through topic 5 in the next 5 minutes, we should probably go into executive session first and then come back.
I have no problem doing that. Let's do that. So we're going to executive session at this time. Okay, executive session is now ended. It's about 12:05, during which we discussed personnel matters. And we still have item 5, performance evaluation review to discuss.
I have an objection on the Sunshine Act,
What's your objection?
that the executive session was not listed on the agenda, and there was a discussion about police officers.
It's right there.
That was at number 6. And the agenda was changed, and it should be done in a certain procedure, vote, and have public comments. And I think the public needs to know the discussion, or at least portion of the discussion about police matters. Thank you. And I'm hoping to still hear your opinion on the locked door incident.
Okay, your objection's noted. Move on.
So item 5, how did this come about? Is it through you, Ron?
Yes.
Okay.
Kind of strange setting at the moment, considering the last conversation, but to the extent that we're in this conversation, I've had concerns from the day I walked in, and we were handed 5 packets of information about the situation that took place in the police department, that we had no idea what it was about or anything, and we were ultimately involved in the disposition of a situation involving someone working with the police department. To say that there was substantial information that was provided from actual documentation would be a gift, to the extent that there were a lot of anecdotal pieces of information accumulated by folks. A large part of the disposition of the situation involved more the potential threat or threats that would come from either side or both sides. And as luck would have it in this day and age, when you're not sure what you're going to go, you can always default to the insurance manual. So we got rid of that situation. But to the extent that that bothered me, it bothered me because in addition, we have a meeting at the end of the year where we're provided with bonuses and increases for personnel that work throughout the 50 or so numbers of people in the borough. It was a done deal before, and since nobody had any specific information about any one individual, you don't want to be in a position of telling the Girl Scouts can't put their signs up before we tell them they can't put their signs up. So in this case, you don't want to say no, and you don't want to not give a person a raise. But we have no idea who these people are, what they did, and how they did it, and when they did it, and how long they've been here. So that to me just harkened back to several organizations that I've worked for, all of which are substantial, some of which are Fortune 500, all of which provide substantial requirements that evaluations be done. And they're done in a way that would mimic, not in a common way, mimic the way the government works or the police department works. Patrolman, corporal, sergeant, lieutenant, captain, major, whatever it is, moves up the chain. And at each level, that evaluation is provided substantial. It goes through a lot of information for all the people that are under your jurisdiction. It's comprehensive. at the conclusion of the evaluation, which I believe all of you have received a copy of it, whether you haven't read it or not, that's another story. But it's a list of items that are cross-checked going down and left to right by category and by how significant your performance is from left to right. Conclusion is at the conclusion, the individual whose evaluation was just performed reads over it, goes back through it, meets with the supervisor, says, is there anything else you'd like to add or subtract? Put in there, comes down, it's signed off on by the reviewer, and then it goes up the chain further so that every single person in the operation knows what they have to do, how they have to do it, and what would qualify being really good, not so good, or you should be here at all, and it just keeps going. And that goes on every year, required. In response to my document, I was able to look at the document for the borough. There was an item that certain people are involved in the union. The union has absolutely nothing to do with evaluation. There's disciplinary situations or other things of that nature that might enter into it. But the evaluations are clearly permitted by anyone, and 30,000 people work in Homeland Security and the state police, and every single one of them gets an evaluation. They all belong in the union, and it works out pretty well. And everybody knows exactly what to expect and exactly who's going to be doing the job. And it's very helpful because it tells you where you are and where you can go and how you move up the ladder. I don't know what the evaluation process is within the police department because it appeared as though the evaluation form that I received excluded the police department and the fire department, for which there's no reason to do that. And to the extent that you have a chain of command within the police department, the fire department, it provides a safe space for everyone that's working to know who they work for, what they're supposed to do, and how they're supposed to do it. Now, there may be differences across the spectrum of the number of lieutenants or captains or whatever there are, but that's okay, because it all goes through and eventually up to the chain of command, where the major is now reviewing the guy that reviewed all the reviewers. So it's time consuming, but it beats the hell out of not having any information about something we need to know about for one reason or another, whether it's a raise or it's getting fired or getting moved from one place to the other. And under no circumstances have I ever been in a place where one person evaluates everybody in the organization and then presumes to think that when they ask the individual, is there anything you think I could do to improve my workload? That's kind of a scary thought, because there's only one person reviewing the entire operation for the most part. It just doesn't happen. You get reviewed by the person you work with every single day. And yes, are there issues where you may have 3 people ranked the same way and they review people in different fashions? That's also another check and balance, because if you have 3 people and one person doesn't like you and you move to the next section and this person loves you, it creates a situation where when you're called on the carpet to make a decision with regard to someone's future, you need to have as much information as possible. And I don't think you do that. I think this would be simple to take a performance review like this. You could get card checks if you wanted to. You could get any number of places where you could get an organization employee review form just like this. And it would take some time? Of course it would. But we could take our I don't even know how this place is divided. It's like a big secret. We have all these guys that work for Jim Babb, but there's like 40 people running around here all day long.
Right there, bro.
Yeah, well, that wasn't in here.
That's been.
All right, okay, so there it is, right? Okay, so if that's it, and and we have supervisors there in each one of those areas, then because I haven't looked at it lately, I do know that I haven't seen reviews from all the people that are in charge of the people that they're supervising. And the question is, are all the people that are managing people in our organization, are they being reviewed by the people that are supervising them? Are they being reviewed by people that are not supervising them? Is Jim Babb reviewing everyone in his organization?
No, actually, Greg Capriola is, because the Assistant Public Works Director is responsible for all personnel-related aspects
And
of the
how many of
department.
those people are there?
21,
And he evaluates all 21 every
Yes.
single day?
yes.
So
But
that
actually-
all works for him?
Actually, he does them on an annual basis, and any new employee is
Yeah.
reviewed at the end of their 90-day probationary period.
And he reviews all 21 people,
Yes,
and he can do that effectively.
yes.
So he does this every single day?
He does it every year. It's
No,
an,
I mean, he's reviewing 21 people every day.
he's interacting with them every day, yes.
Okay, and
Who's
who else?
qualified to do it?
Can we just have this conversation about being,
Ron, what is it you're trying to get
We're
to?
trying
You're
to-
really doing a.
we're trying to get
corner of a rock in
evaluations.
this barn here.
all right, well, we'll just talk, we can't talk about what we just talked about, but obviously that's a perfect example, and the perfect example of what we did in the fall a year and a half ago is an example where there was absolutely no information. We don't know who interviewed whom. We knew there were people all over the borough that knew this person.
That's not true, Ron. So to answer what I think is your question, Greg is responsible for reviewing all 21 employees in the Public Works Department. Prior to this year, the fire chief was not a borough employee, so the fire chief not only did not perform evaluations for our crew firefighters, despite being asked to, I could not review the fire chief myself, because he was not our employee. That has changed. Chief Holmes is aware that he is going to need to review every employee this year, as well as get his own evaluation.
But are
I
the
believe-
evaluations the same for everybody in the borough?
Yes, as I explained, the blank performance review template that is up on the screen now is what every non-department head employee outside of the police department, because John already had his own system in place, is used to get a review. The department head performance evaluation, which is much more extensive, as I feel it should be, and is tailored to each job description specific to the business manager, the public works director, the fire chief, the police chief. Those are used strictly for salaried department head employees. They're done every year, at least since I've been manager. I can also say that reviews were spotty prior to me taking over as manager, I think across the board in all departments. And that's something that we've made a very conscious effort to change since 2021.
Well, I just find it hard to believe that if you look at this evaluation, how comprehensive it is, and you say that EMPD is just fine, when the amount of information you can get about someone's performance is so much greater in this evaluation to say, yeah, but it takes too long, who cares, we don't need that.
Ron, what I
That's
think
it's
you're
fine.
missing is when this is all said and done, there are multiple pages to this. I took all the language out from this. This is someone's review from last year. It's not appropriate to share that with all of council and
I'm
the
not
personnel
asking you
committee.
to share it, it just says here, for example, it says supervisory management. There's 5 categories: outstanding, commendable, satisfactory, needs improvement, unsatisfactory. And below it, it tells the person exactly what's expected of them to be granted outstanding or unsatisfactory. That's
Exceeds
not fair.
expectation, meets, partially meets, does not meet, and then the result is here. And when I fill this out, I explain both exceeds, partially, does not meet.
Ron, are you
Yeah,
saying
but-
we should use a different format?
Yeah.
Because I'm still confused what you're trying to
But
drive
that's why
at
I
here.
sent it, because first of all, I asked
Okay,
about.
I saw it,
I asked
saw
about
it.
evaluations a year and a half ago and didn't see anything until I sent this. And then that showed up in response to my request that we look at an evaluation that would be standard across all 3 departments, fire, police, and us. And they all contain the same information so that there's no confusion about why somebody got fired from the maintenance department but didn't get fired from the fire department because the evaluations were different, and we're sitting here trying to make something out of chop suey.
quite
Doesn't work.
frankly, we're kind of fortunate that our union employees even permit us to have an evaluation.
No, that's not true.
Well,
You're-
okay,
union
in
employee-
your opinion,
Yes,
it's
in my
not true.
opinion, after
It's not
40
true.
years working in an organization that
Okay.
has 50,000 union people that all
Right,
get
okay,
evaluations.
you know you were with this PSP.
Okay, well, they were evaluated all the time, and nobody
Okay.
said you can't evaluate me, I'm in the union.
Well, no wonder things turn slow in government. Because if it's gotta be, if it's gotta be run up the ladder by so many people, I was fortunate enough to work for 2 Fortune 100 international companies that I had 35 and 43 employees each.
I'm really.
I did their reviews, and then I submitted mine to the Vice President of the United States
I'm
of the company.
fine, sorry.
And it was permitted, because I was getting paid to do that, that was part of my job.
It's part of your job to do evaluations and submit them to the people in your organization, union or not.
My boss trusted my judgment.
Of course.
That's what I was being paid for. That's exactly what we paid Michelle to do. We trust her.
The quality of the evaluation and the ability to consider, if one person can do all these evaluations, that's great, that's his job. And if you're supervising 21 people, you spend the time to do it, you determine whether or not they go into any one of these categories. And the following year, when they get their evaluation, they'll be able to say, I'm getting better. But it's excellent. Well, you stink. Okay, well, how can I improve? Well, I don't know.
I don't see the difference here.
You're not even listening to what Michelle said. That's all in her report. It's just a redacted report.
Is there a
I-
way to
I-
see the police and fire?
Fire will be,
evaluations?
fire will be using the same that we're using.
Okay, so police is just different. Is there a way to see that and compared to what we're using, so we can see that we're covering both, like the same thing?
I can send blank, I'm not.
Yeah, like just a blank, so we can say, all right, this is what you're looking at, this is what Michelle's looking at, this is what she holds, so we're not missing a major factor in one of the.
To also be clear, the only reviews I am responsible for are the department heads.
Right.
Every department head reviews their own department, because obviously I do not spend day in, day out with
But I
our
assume
employees.
you see the reports that, do you see all the 21 that Greg?
Unless there's an issue, no. If there's an issue, we talk about it.
It would be very easy, if you're looking at this report, and it came to me, or it came to Fred, and Fred sat down, and we went through this whole thing. If I gave you Fred's report, I gave you my report, I gave you Rick's report, they would all look the same, except that the check marks would go in different places, and everyone that was sitting there being reviewed by whoever reviewed it would know exactly what their expectations were, and exactly what the conclusion was at the end of the day, and would be signed, sealed, and delivered. Instead, you have an amorphous word, excellent, and then there's no explanation of what excellent means.
Is
You
there-
run the,
Just
It
say
is,
it's
it's right there.
yeah, but I have this, it has to be a standard.
Why do you have to see it to believe it?
Because we're the ones that end up getting sued by somebody that says, I did this way, and we look at the evaluation and
That's
say,
why we have a borough manager, Ron.
no, it's not. We have a borough manager to see that the people that are doing their job evaluating our personnel is accurate and comprehensive. Not that we can make it up as we go along when somebody decides to sue us.
We're not here to micromanage it. That's not how the system
Well,
works.
all right, you call it micromanaging, I call it good management, so that's fine.
But I don't believe there's not good management going on. We have no reason to believe it.
I think it's.
So I think that there can be some room for improvement when we look at what gets done. So to kind of understand what's occurring and the spots that are missing right now, we have the department heads that review their departments, and we have Michelle review those department heads. At this point, my opinion of the missing link in the chain is that we don't have a solid form of review back to Michelle, which I believe you have asked for of this committee before, to have a review done of your position.
But we have done partially. That's my fault.
So I think
That's
that,
my fault.
in my opinion, that's where the part that I think we're lacking at the moment. I think that we need to provide Michelle the same thing that she does to the other department heads, for me to get a similar review form done for her out of this committee on an annual basis. And I can appreciate some of Ron's concerns, where he's saying, how can the people that, let's say Michelle reviews, how can they give accurate feedback back to her? Who's looking over the shoulders of the people doing that work? And I think that's the missing part for
There's no formal review process for Michelle, and perhaps it should be. And maybe it should be added.
I have a meeting in 5 minutes, I have to go.
Right. But
Yeah,
we got council feedback and had a discussion with her.
But I think part of Ron's frustration is when we have that meeting, I think last year where we had everyone come up for the raises and the bonuses, at that point, I think his concern was, where's the supporting information from that? And at that point, it was a lot of, well, this is what Michelle thinks is going forward. And your opinion was that was not quite sufficient enough. You want to see something more robust to support those pay increases and raises. Is that accurate for you?
Sure.
Short of giving you someone's review, which I don't think is appropriate, I don't know how I do that. I mean, I was asking or recommending for the pay increases based off of reviews that were finalized. I'm not gonna come to you and ask for, and to some extent, they're also based off the collective bargaining agreements and the average of where those rates are at.
The only review that we should be looking at, okay, and you're right, we both kind of, came up short on that, is creating a formal review form, which we could use the same as used for everybody else before Michelle, okay? But we have discussed her performance, okay, in executive sessions during budget time, and we have agreed upon what her increase should be.
Well, and you also solicited the input from every member of council.
From every member of council,
Everyone.
yes.
Correct, and that was shared to her.
And that included you, Ron.
Anonymous, right.
And then everybody agreed with it, we went back in and approved what the raise would be.
That's exactly why I'm sitting here. It was an ambiguous overall approach to everybody. Are they good people? Do they really do a good job? Yeah, they do a good job. You want to give them a raise, give them a raise. There's 55 people here. You can't tell me they're all the same, and they all get the same raises, or within $1 or $2, or somebody gets.
All but 8 of us are covered by a collective
It
bargaining
doesn't matter
agreement.
about the collective.
Yes, it sets the
Not for
rate.
the evaluation.
Agreed, but the evaluation, it can be as horrible as you want, and other than disciplinary action, they are tied to the rate
Yeah.
increase that is in their
We
contract.
can't change that,
I didn't say you should change it.
we can't change it.
All right, you can't change it, okay? We're done with that, you can't change it. You can still know what quality of people you have, and even if they're in the collective bargaining agreement, they don't get a job for life.
That's what we have
But
department heads do.
Department heads come in, and we've heard them in executive session several times, we're dealing with.
Ron, you've been saying for
employees.
years, you want us as council to, review and interview every single person.
No, I don't.
Well, you have.
I have not said
And we've
that.
said no because we're not qualified to
I
do so.
said I wanted to know what person's in charge of the number of people that work in the borough. And I was just told, there's 21 people in the maintenance crew, revealed by Greg. Great. Now, in the police department, I assume, but do not know, except for conversations we've had in the past, that there's lieutenants, there's sergeants, and, have any corporals over there?
No.
No corporals. Lieutenants, sergeants, chief, and patrolmen. Somebody's reviewing them. I don't know who. So therefore.
Didn't I just describe that?
You described it 10 minutes ago,
The
okay?
police department, ultimately, it's up to the chief. He is the department head.
And I'm telling
Okay.
you right now that that would not be the appropriate way to do it if you have 3 lieutenants or 3 sergeants and they have platoons.
It's based on the information he gets.
Plus every department has different skills.
What do you wanna do
that
with
we
the
don't
fire
even know
Listen,
how to apply or whether they're applying correctly.
And it is,
It does,
and
it
it
does.
is true that you've expressed an interest in interviewing a whole lot of people.
I don't wanna interview anybody. I just
You
want.
certainly expressed the.
No, I did not. I never expressed
Yes.
that I wanted to interview anyone.
Yes, you
Who do
did.
I wanna interview?
Ron, to make it more, less specific, I think some of your comments in the past have indicated you want more involvement in overseeing evaluation stuff
No,
than what we have now. Because you don't seem to have you're not relying on Michelle who's doing the job as she's supposed to.
I'm comparing a job, several jobs, in situations where the number of people are in the tens of thousands and use evaluations of this magnitude, and they're done professionally. This is how they do it. I've seen it, it works really well. I said, maybe we wanna look at this. And I'm now told that, no, we don't want to. It's not that it's not really good and that hundreds of thousands of people are using it all over the country. It could be the best one in the world. You don't wanna use it, that's fine. I put in my 2 cents. We'll do what we're doing, I'm good. Thank you very much.
Well, we can let Michelle know that whatever's in those forms, if she can utilize that, she should try to utilize it. I don't see a problem
I'm
with
not
that.
trying to force anybody to do anything. If you like this, if it makes sense, use it. If it doesn't, throw it out the window.
All right. Very well. Any further discussion on the evaluation review? Hearing none, adjourn the meeting by acclamation.
Yay.